Welcome to the Shun Podcast. It's a new year, 2020, a whole new decade, and I'm going to keep exposing religions that use shunning as a tool to control people. Being at the beginning of a new year and a new decade, I kind of see big things in the future. More and more people are speaking out against these different cults or religious organizations, and I think there's really a lot of momentum building in the ex-Jehovah's Witness movement. I wanted to get this year and this new decade off to a great start. So one of the things that I've done is I've released a new website called xjwhelp.com. So again, that's xjwhelp.com. I've made videos to help answer some of the common questions that I get asked, some of the issues that I see come up that people are struggling with, and I'm going to continue to add to this library of videos there. There's a free downloadable roadmap to help you see where you are in your journey. There's resources where you can find local meetups, online meetups through the Shunned Recovery Project, other projects and books that might be of help, and even a live chat service or individual coaching if that's what you're looking for. I will continue to add to the site regularly. So to celebrate the release of xjwhelp.com, to celebrate the new year, the new decade, I'm releasing 10 episodes this month instead of 2. So, I just really wanted to do something to kind of blow it out. My initial goal was to do an episode a day for the whole month of January. That was a ridiculous goal that I could not meet, and that's okay too. But I've got 10 episodes ready to go, and I'm going to start releasing one a day, Monday through Friday for the next 2 weeks. So, I really wanted to kind of do something to show, there's so many people who are reaching out to me. It's really hard to keep up. There are so many of us out here that want to tell our stories, and that's an amazing thing. So in order to streamline this process of releasing so many, I'm not going to tell you who you're about to meet. You can read the description if you're interested in that. That way I can add this to the front of each episode without having to spend time recording each individually. So let's dive right into the interview and get to meet today's guest.
My name is Alexa. I'm 22 years old. I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, and I am shunned.
All right, Alexa, so how did you come to be around the religion in the first place?
I was born into it.
Yeah, not much option when you're born in. What about your parents? How does this go back very far in your family?
So the religion is only on my mom's side. My grandma came into the religion when she was like 18. Her and my grandpa, they had like just gotten married, and they had my mom, and then witnesses came to their door one day, and then they just started a Bible study. So they raised my mother and her brother and sister in the religion.
Okay, and so your dad then is not or was not ever one of Jehovah's Witnesses?
No,
Gotcha.
He was raised Catholic.
Gotcha. Well, that's kind of interesting. So your mom, was she a witness when she met your dad?
So she got baptized at 14, and then she was going through like a lot at home, and like her parents split up, and like my grandpa remarried, and her stepmother was like abusive, I guess, and so she was just going through a lot, and then she ended up getting disfellowshipped when she was 16. And she met my dad when she was like 17 or 18, and she had me. And then I think she got reinstated when she was like 20. And then she married my dad, and they didn't disfellowship her for that, but they like took away her privileges. So like she wasn't really allowed to do anything like when she showed up to the meetings and everything, since she married someone who wasn't in the religion. Like they were kind of punishing her that way.
Yeah. Probably like a private reproof or public reproof or something like that.
Yeah.
So yourself being raised in it, how did it make you see the world around you?
So like when I was younger, that's like all I was taught. So I obviously like I don't know, it just seemed normal.
Yeah.
Like, and then like as I started getting older, I like realized how depressing it was. Like, I don't know, it gave me like a depressing view of the world, because like my mom was always telling me like, oh, the Great Tribulation is near, and like um I don't know, like the whole like everyone's gonna be wiped out, like unless you're a Jehovah's Witness, and like just different things I was hearing was kind of scary.
Well, yeah, it is. And then when you think about it, how much more depressing does it get than, here in the near future, we are going to be persecuted, and then God is going to murder everyone on earth.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a pretty terrible worldview.
I know. And like I was always really scared. Like I'm still scared, like traumatized, but like at the same time I never actually believed it. Like I didn't have faith, I guess. I don't know how to explain it, but anytime I would try to talk about it or like ask questions, my mom would get like really mad cuz she would be like you just have to have faith and like I don't know.
Just believe. Let's not
Yeah.
think about this. Let's not question it. Let's just
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you talked about being scared. Were you scared of like world events or?
Yeah, like they told me like we were gonna have to like once the Great Tribulation came, we were gonna have to like go into hiding and like we might get thrown into jail if because we're gonna still practice the religion
Mhm.
and like she always like told me not to get too close to people at school and like she always scared me about Satan like she was like um Jehovah sees everything and like Satan is gonna throw like tactics at you to try to get you to turn away and like just like hearing that as a kid you're like oh my god this is scary.
Yeah, and when you see it, you see that what they're doing is they're motivating you through fear.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you. I was a true believer in all this, and I bought it all. I looked forward to the paradise, and that was exciting, particularly never
Yeah.
having to die. That sounded nice.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of my motivation and a lot of people's motivations is just the fear of being killed by God.
Yes. Yeah.
An everlasting destruction, even if there is no fiery hell or anything on the other side of it.
Yeah.
They're using fear to get you to do what they want you to do.
Yeah.
So what was childhood like for you at home? How'd you feel there? Did you all study a lot? Did you have fun? What was your childhood like at home?
So this is like I don't know, like this is another reason why it was hard for me. I don't know. Like since my mom was the only one who was a witness and my dad wasn't, um she always told us like she's the spiritual head of the household, so like we should only listen to her. And like it was really conflicting cuz like my dad would tell us stuff and then my mom would take over and be like, "No, you have to listen to me. He doesn't know like what I'm telling you is going to save you and stuff." And um we actually didn't even do like family studies or anything. Like my mom sometimes we would go to other people's houses for like a watchtower study or something.
Oh yeah.
But like she was really I feel like she was spiritually weak like since she was the only head like spiritual head she was like struggling to like I don't know do everything by herself.
Oh
But
yeah. It's a lot of
also
pressure.
my
Plus,
dad
she's fighting against your dad.
yes and also he's an alcoholic so
Mm.
he like they would always get into fights about everything and like um yeah like it was kind of rough.
Well, yeah.
But
I mean, just I mean, take away Jehovah's Witnesses. Take away the split between your mom saying "Don't listen to your dad,"
yeah.
which isn't a super healthy dynamic and everything. Just growing up in a household where alcoholism is present, period,
Oh yeah.
is difficult and
Yep.
creates a lot of trauma for people. So,
Yes.
so that's difficult in and of itself. Throw in a cult and division
Yeah.
between parents, and it's not going to be a super fun environment.
Yeah. And my mom, she would get like depression a lot. I mean, she has depression, so she would get depressed and like I remember she wouldn't, like, for like a whole year she didn't go to the meeting at all. So I was like 10 or something, or like 11, and I felt like I was supposed to get us to the meeting, like me and my sisters. I have two younger sisters, by the way.
Mhm.
But so like she would tell us, like, if you want to go to the meeting, call someone to get you a ride. So literally all the time I was calling people to come get us, and like they would take us out in field service and take us to the meetings, and my mom wouldn't go, and I don't know.
So how'd you feel? Well, let me ask, how were you treated, first of all, by, when you're calling for rides, are people happy to come get you?
Yeah,
Yeah, because they've got somebody.
yeah.
uh,
They're like, "Oh, these kids, they want to come.
yeah.
Like, let's help them."
Yeah, yeah. And how did it feel for you? Did you feel like you were just doing the right thing? This little,
Yeah,
um,
cuz like at that time, like I felt like that's what I was supposed to do, and um like I guess when I was that young, I did believe it, and
sure.
like I was scared. I was like, "Oh no, we have to go to the meeting." Um and my mom would be like, "I just can't. Like I'm not feeling well. Like I'm gonna listen in on the phone or something, but you guys should go. You need to see people and like get out of the house." So it was that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
like I felt like I was helping my little sisters get
Yeah.
in the
I mean, you're the oldest anyway, right?
yeah. Mhm.
And often the oldest ends up being the more responsible one, or the one where the responsibility often falls. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, you can see the dynamic there where it's gonna make you feel responsible for your siblings, and not just responsible like they need to go to school or something, but like responsible. This is their life, their everlasting
Yeah.
life.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So you were, even if you never talked to a person out in the field ministry, you were like saving your sisters, on some level,
Yeah.
and yourself. So it sounds like home wasn't the most encouraging place. Did
Yeah.
you did you find any escape either at school or the Kingdom Hall? Did you find maybe some friends there or anything?
Um I actually never really had friends at the Kingdom Hall. Like I don't know, I don't really remember why. Like my mom just didn't help me get like play dates or anything growing up, and like um the kids who were my age, they like already had their own friend group.
Hmm.
I don't really understand. Like, well, actually, the first congregation I was in, where
Hmm.
and his family were,
Hmm.
um, there weren't really any kids, so it was just like me and my sisters, and we would like go around and talk to like the older people and stuff. And then like by the time I got older, like, and we moved congregations, the people in that congregation already had like their own friend groups and everything. So, and at school, like for like when I was growing up, I remember trying to like my mom would always tell me like try to talk to the kids at school and like talk to them about the paradise and stuff. So I think
Nothing makes you
sometimes,
friends faster than witnessing to them at school.
yeah. So like I remember bringing my Bible sometimes and like inviting kids to the memorial, and but then like as I got a little older, I was like, I don't really want to like talk to them about religion. I'd rather, I don't know. But I always had friends at school, and my mom was like, she wouldn't let me do like after school activities or sports or anything, cuz she was like, you don't need to spend any more time with those kids than you already have to at school.
Yeah.
So that was hard.
Oh yeah, because it's even more isolating. And when you don't have friends at the
Yes.
Kingdom Hall and you don't have
Yeah,
friends at school,
exactly.
kind of makes you a man on an island, or a woman on an
Yeah.
island, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, and it is true. A lot of these Kingdom Halls, well, I mean, they can be very clicky anyway, but the kids kind of, like you said, they have their own groups, and it's very
Yeah.
difficult to get into somebody else's group. It's just,
Yes.
um,
And a lot of like I did hang out with like one girl I remember, sometimes, but even then, like, her family didn't really like me, and like, because they kind of judged us since my mom was married to someone who wasn't a witness, and like they felt like they didn't want her to hang out with me that much because they felt like our family was bad association. So even in the congregation, like, people kind of distanced their kids from me.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous because you were a kid who was actually taking the lead, taking charge, and going to meetings and stuff. They should see that as encouraging and someone to encourage, and instead they judge you because your mom's not going and your dad's not a witness. It's ridiculous.
Yep.
So, at school, how did you fare with being different? You know, not being able to celebrate holidays or do things that the other kids did.
It was always really hard. Like, I always was like a little bit upset that I couldn't do any, like, my mom would be like if there was a birthday at school or something, she would be like, you can't eat the food or anything, like, you have to go to the library, and like, or something like that, or like if they're watching a Christmas movie, you have to go sit in the library, you can't watch it. So it was really embarrassing because everyone knew I was the one that didn't do holidays, and I didn't put my hand over my heart to say the pledge.
Yep.
And like eventually, like, I stopped doing all that. Like once I got a little bit older, I was like, you know what, my mom's not here. I'm gonna stay here and watch this Christmas movie. But yeah, it was definitely, I don't know, it was hard.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the Kingdom Hall, you say that you didn't, maybe have a lot of friends. You did, at least, I guess, it sounds like you went out in service when people would pick you up.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy giving talks? Did you enjoy participating and feel like maybe you at least fit in with some of the older people, or did you just kind of feel out of it?
I mean, yeah, I did, like, for a while I enjoyed giving talks. Like, I was on the ministry school, and since I had been going out, I never liked going in service and like talking to people, but
nobody did. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no.
I'm sure somebody did, but it wasn't a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Hanging out with people was okay, but talking to people was not. Yeah.
Yes. And I feel like everyone wanted to, like, they always wanted me to come with them because they said, like, people were more willing to talk to a kid. So,
yeah.
And sorry.
That's okay.
So when I was like 12, I think, my mom had been pushing me to like go out in service more and like keep showing interest in being on the ministry school and everything. And then she really wanted me to become an unbaptized publisher. So that's what I did when I became 12. When I turned 12, but I feel like I was just so pressured to do that because she was like, I got baptized when I was 14, so you need to start working towards it. Like, you're getting old enough where you can start making your dedication to Jehovah and everything. So, but I was only a publisher for like a year.
Oh, really? Okay. I mean, that is a lot of pressure. It's really unfair for your mom to be like, I did this by a certain age, so you should have to.
Yeah.
That's honestly, I mean, technically, I think even if you read Watchtower's publications, they don't encourage parents to necessarily do it quite like that.
Yeah.
So, you said you were just a publisher well, let me ask you first, what did it mean to you to be a publisher? And and I don't know if you remember or not, but what did you have to do to be a publisher?
I think I just had to show how interested I was and like how much I wanted it by like commenting a lot at the meeting and going out in service any chance I got. And like, I can't remember how I got on the ministry school, but I had to get on the ministry school and like give talks and everything. So I just had to show like how dedicated I was. And once I became a publisher, like I was actually really excited, and I I don't know. I think I kept doing the same thing. Like I just felt like I had more responsibility and like I felt a little grown up.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
It is interesting. It's just hitting me listening to you talk about it because, I usually talk to people who got baptized and I ask about their baptism.
Yeah.
Um, but, listening to somebody talk about just the act of becoming a publisher, an
Yeah.
unbaptized publisher, makes you realize um, what a weird step it is because it's
I
not
know.
it's not something like where's that in the Bible?
Yeah.
Where were the unbaptized publishers? And just the term publisher is weird.
Yeah.
Because when you think about it, it was the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of New York, back in the day, and I haven't really sat here and looked into the origins of this, but it was they were publishers in that. I mean, they were basically book publishers, and they would take books and they would buy the books from Watchtower at a wholesale price, and then go door to door and sell the books and make a little profit. And then it was a little business, basically, almost like a little multi-level marketing type thing, or like your own little self-employed venture, just selling Watchtower's books. So it's like a very weird step for people to have
Yeah.
to go through. It's kind of strange.
Yeah, I agree.
So for you, you said that you were an unbaptized publisher for a year, or roughly a year. So how did this all play out for you?
So when it was like either like when I turned 13 or like right before, my dad, he had gotten like DUIs and everything, and like he had been to jail a couple times, and then he ended up losing his job. And my mom didn't work because she had a disability, or she has fibromyalgia. So she was having like muscle flare ups and like depression and everything. So with both of them not working, we ended up getting evicted from the townhouse we were staying in. And that's like when everything started like going crazy in my world. Like my dad went to live with his parents, and they offered to take me and my sisters in as well, but they didn't want my mom. And my mom wouldn't let us go without her. So we had to stay with her mom, which is my grandma that is in the religion. But actually, here's the funny thing about her. My mom's mom, she's like a baptized witness, but she's kind of considered inactive because she hasn't been to the meetings since I was like younger. And like she just like she'll always talk about the religion and like her like how much she loves Jehovah and everything, and she'll always talk to us about him, but she doesn't go in service or the meetings or anything. She just stays home. But anyways, we moved in with her for a while, and like she couldn't take it anymore. Like it was just a lot on her because she was also raising my cousins. So we had to stay in a homeless shelter. And so like obviously I started like acting out a little bit, and like I feel like I started leading a double life at school because I was like becoming closer to my friends at school, and like we weren't really making the meetings because we were just kind of in a weird situation, and like we didn't want people to pick us up from the homeless shelter. And like so I just started turning to my friends at school and like having doubts about the religion because of a lot of things that were going on. I don't know.
Yeah, you
But
certainly didn't feel like you were being blessed.
yeah. And then we ended up moving into a motel for a few months, and like my mom and I, that's when like we started fighting a whole lot, and like I kept telling her I didn't like believe things about what they were teaching, and like I didn't want to be a publisher anymore. And once she found out like that I was hanging out, like getting closer to people at school, and like I kind of like I would start trying things to rebel, like smoking cigarettes and stuff. She made me tell the elders. Like she took me to the meeting and she was like, we need to have a talk with the elders. And they took me in the back room, and I had to tell them that I experimented smoking cigarettes, and like I had really close friends at school, and like I was interested in dating boys and stuff, and they immediately took away my privileges. And
It's
yeah.
always nice to have support from your mom and your
Yeah.
the people who are supposed to be the quote spiritual shepherds in the Kingdom Hall. You know, at that point you were what, 13, 14, somewhere in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a 13, 14-year-old girl who raised in an alcoholic household with a mom who's depressed and seems to not be super emotionally functional,
Yeah.
and you're homeless, and this is really the time to
Yeah.
punish a kid and make them
Yeah.
feel like shit about themselves. Like what
Yeah.
possible benefit does any of that have?
Exactly. Like I was obviously crying out for help. And they like their
Obviously.
only concern also, like people were like, you need to get to the meetings. Like I understand you're going through a lot at home, but like call us. You just need to get to the meetings. It'll make you feel better. And nobody like offered to help me or like sit down and talk to me and like figure out what I was going through or anything, or like why I was having doubts. And they just their only concern was like, you need to get to the meeting.
Yes. No one was offering you a place to live, I assume.
Yeah. Nope.
Right. Yeah, but get to the meetings. Isn't that really kind of almost the oh boy. I've struggled with the Bible a little bit now, but the keep warm and well fed scripture, where basically you see your brother hungry or naked or whatever, and you just, instead of actually helping them, you're just like, hope you have a good day, hope you feel better.
Yeah.
And that's Jehovah's Witnesses talk a lot about help, but they don't do anything to help.
Mm-hmm.
So I just got to ask you, what was it like for you in that transition, staying at a homeless shelter and everything? How did you feel just about yourself, about life at that time? I mean, that has to be a very scary thing.
Yeah. Like that whole period of my life is kind of foggy because like I kind of blocked it out until like right now. But I just remember feeling like extremely depressed, and like I didn't know what was gonna happen, so I was scared, and I didn't have any friends except the ones at school who like I didn't have anyone that cared about me, I felt like. And like I don't know. I just started realizing like my mom, the only thing she would say was like she's kind of like my grandma. She would just keep talking about Jehovah and everything, and like we just need to have faith in Jehovah. He's going to take care of us. And like it didn't seem like that was going to happen to me. So I was seriously rethinking like everything about the religion, and like the fact that nobody was helping us, and my grandmother kicked us out and like let us go to a homeless shelter. And I don't know, it was a really weird time for me.
Yeah, there's your grandma kicking you out and making you go to a homeless shelter.
Yeah.
That alone, not encouraging. And see, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. The thing is, my Nona, which is my dad's mom,
Mm-hmm.
she was a Catholic, and my pop-up is Catholic, and they were the ones that were like willing to help their grandchildren and like take them in. And like I feel like they would have taken my mom in if my mom wasn't the way she is. Like she always talked bad about them since they were Catholic, and she always told us like they're bad, like they have demons in their house because they had the cross hanging up in their living room and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they had like Christmas decorations, and like she didn't want her kids to be around that, so she didn't let her kids have a place to live because of that. But my nonna and pop-pop knew that my mom, like, they didn't want her in their house because she just always talked bad about them, even to their face, and like she would try to preach to them about how, and say like they don't know the truth and like that kind of stuff. Like they didn't want that in their house.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can't. You can understand that, and
Yeah.
uh, isn't it amazing how a person can have nothing and be nothing and do nothing and still feel superior than others and
Yes.
talk down to them.
Yeah.
It's what you see is that people a lot of times are really escaping into this belief that makes them feel special. It makes them feel like they're better than. It makes them feel like, again, throw your burden on Jehovah, right? You can, rather than actually, I don't know, doing something to help yourself.
Yeah.
It's much easier to throw your burdens on Jehovah and to absolve yourself of any responsibility. So anything bad that happens, well, that's Satan. Anything good that happens, that's Jehovah. And you absolve yourself of any accountability for your own life. It sounds like, your mom is probably a deeply hurt person that isn't able to cope very well, doesn't have a lot of tools.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe given some tools, she could be healthier. But yeah. So where do you all go from there? Go ahead.
I was actually gonna tell you about. I was gonna go back a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when I was younger, actually, this is another thing that made me like. Since I was younger, like I always thought about it, and I was like, as I got older, I realized how messed up it was, and like that also played into like why I had doubts about the religion and like my family and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was younger, my mom's brother sexually abused me.
Mm-hmm.
So when that happened, like I didn't really know what happened or like what it meant. And like my grandma and my mom, they all like I feel like they covered it up. Like that he is now a baptized witness and like he has a wife and a daughter and like nobody in the congregation has ever known about it, and like he never like went to jail or anything or like had to tell the elders. Like they just like I don't know, I feel like my grandma even was like she was young, she probably doesn't remember it, like we just can keep it in the family, and like they just literally covered it up. And like I just feel like that, like if you're a part of a religion that you're saying like you I don't know, like you serve God, Jehovah, and like you're preaching about everything. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
If only
like,
they were as vigilant about making sure. So, like, you don't believe anymore, or you have doubts, and the elders will come after you. Because they have to make keep the congregation pure and clean.
Yes.
From a mental standpoint, but yet you can have somebody like this come in.
Yes.
And everybody's covering for them.
Yeah.
And I mean, the fact that he did this to you, chances are not the first time.
Yep.
And probably not the last, especially when people enable them by being quiet. And especially, I understand kids being quiet because you're threatened, you're scared. This is a very intimidating situation. Totally get that, especially and it's very traumatic.
Yeah.
But when adults know and adults don't do anything, that's really disturbing. And it also makes me wonder, so something like a fibromyalgia or one of those types of disorders or illnesses often kind of runs hand in hand with some psychological issues. And
Yes.
oftentimes it's kind of a physical manifestation of a psychological issue. And so you have to wonder, what could have happened to your mom,
Yeah.
especially being in a house with that guy.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I remember like
it's just so sad.
I know. And I remember everything that happened. Like I didn't make like any of it up. They say like, oh, she probably like doesn't remember everything that happened. I don't know. But I remember it was like a month or two after it happened. Like I kept thinking about it, and he the time that it happened, he was like, you can't tell anyone about it, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And like I came to him, like we were well, I can't remember how old I was like 8 or 7, but like I came to him and I was like, I really want to tell my mom what happened because I don't like to keep secrets from her, and Jehovah says not to lie. And he was like, Jehovah will understand this lie. And like he kept telling me not to tell. And then I finally told my mom, and like she was initially like really upset and everything, and like she didn't let me see him for like a while, but like after that it was just like nothing happened, like nobody ever spoke of it again. He was still at the meetings and like still hanging out with friends, and like um I don't know, so I never brought it up again, but like all these years like I still think about it. And when I found out he was having a baby, and well, like everyone was so happy for him when he got married because he married a witness and everything. And then when I found out he was having a baby girl, that's when I like brought it up. Like I
Mm-hmm.
finally brought it up, and I was like, I said it to my mom. I was, cause she was treating me bad. Like we'll get into it later, but like she's always treated me bad for my life and everything. And I was like, so you're like so happy for your brother who sexually abused your daughter, and he's having a daughter, and you think he won't do that to her?
Yeah.
And she was so shocked. She was like, I didn't know you remembered that. I didn't know you still think about that. And I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna forget about it.
Well, and I just want to acknowledge, I'm sorry that that happened to you, and I'm sorry that nobody was there for you and nobody got you help about
Yeah.
it, around that, and that the attitude that she won't remember and all, like it's disgusting, and it's very sad. It just shows the level of denial that people are in,
Yeah.
to put up with that. And now he's unleashed in congregations around kids and nobody knows, and now he's
Yeah.
having his own kid
Exactly.
and nobody wants to talk about it.
Yep.
And so when whatever happens, they can live with that on their conscience.
Yep.
It's
And it makes me wonder how many other families like
yes.
have the same thing
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. And let's also say a lot of that was an old school attitude. People did not previously understand the nature of predators.
Yeah.
Did not understand the psychology behind it. Um, interesting point I always thought was, so you're in the one and only true organization that claims to be led by God. How come God didn't understand what predators do and warn you ahead of time? Why are you always behind? Why do you need science and psychology to figure this stuff out for you? And then you still
Yeah.
fight it and don't believe it, and then eventually you might come around and then claim you're led by God, and that's how you know. So yeah, God's a little behind on things sometimes,
Yeah.
in those situations. So for yourself, this has happened. You're carrying this with you. How does your teenage life play out? I mean, it would be normal for you to, well, frankly, from literally everything you've said so far. I mean, from the whether it was your family to what happened to you with your uncle and everything,
Mhm.
like it would be normal for a child to act out in
Yeah.
their teenage years, without having proper tools, with no one, literally all adults failing you on pretty much every level all around
Yeah.
you. Um, what was your teenage life like, and how did it impact? Because you're telling your mom you don't really believe. Where do you go from there?
So after I lost my privileges and everything, I kind of felt like, oh my gosh, I'm free. Like I don't have to pretend, and like I don't have to go out in service. Like I wasn't allowed to go out in service after that. And like I wasn't allowed to comment. So I was like, wow, I really don't have to like keep doing what I don't want to do. But my mom was also telling me like this is the time where you're supposed to start trying to earn those privileges back and show that you want them. But I basically started leading like a double life. Like I would secretly date boys at school, and like my mom never let me hang out with anybody after school, so I would like lie to her and tell her I was staying after school for a project or something, but I would really be going to a friend's house to hang out.
Yeah.
And we actually ended up when I was like 14, my nona helped my parents out. Like she couldn't take it any longer, so she paid for like the first month's rent to a trailer. So we all moved into the trailer, and like my dad got a job again, and like so that's where I ended up growing up as a teenager, like in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And then like my mom started going to meetings to show me that she was like setting a better example for me and everything, but I still was like I I I don't know, I kind of like had made up my mind that I didn't want to be a part of that religion, and like nobody in that religion was there for me, or like I felt like none of them actually cared about me. So then I started like um I did start acting out and like getting involved with like I never did like hard drugs, but I smoked weed, and like I would drink alcohol. Like my dad would leave cans of like Four Loko sitting out, and
Yeah.
he would drink like half of one and like pass out, and then I would drink the rest. And then like my mom started figuring out what I was doing, and like I also started sneaking out at night to go hang out with my friends and everything. And she felt like she was losing control of me, and like I remember her always trying to get the elders to have a meeting with me, like every single meeting, and like try to talk to me and read Bible verses to me and tell me that I just need to like I'm falling away from the truth, and I need like spiritual reminders and that kind of thing. And she also made it a rule that I had to go to every meeting even if she didn't go. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she would threaten to call the cops if I said I didn't want to go, and she would be like, the cops or the police had would make you go because you're under my roof and you have to listen to what your mom says.
Oh, good grief.
Yeah.
And again, you see your mom absolving herself of responsibility,
Yeah.
not taking control of a situation, wanting the elders are going to set you right. The police are going to
Yeah.
set you right.
Yes.
She can't handle herself, which is just sad because she's obviously running from something.
Yeah.
She obviously has some issues,
Mhm.
and that are unaddressed. And rather than getting help herself so that she can be healthy and help her kids, she doesn't have the tools. I'm not blaming her for it. She obviously just lacks and is a very hurt person.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just sad because you needed somebody in those moments
Yep.
and weren't finding it anywhere. And at most, authoritarianism and appeal to authority is not the way to to get buy-in with people, just saying, well, like the police are going to make you go to the meeting. Well, that doesn't
Yeah,
mean that you're going to believe anything, or,
exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
but we're just going to force you to be indoctrinated. And
Yeah. I remember one time she got one of the sisters to come over and she wanted her to have a heart to heart with me. And my mom was like listening from the other room. And the lady was like basically quizzing me on everything in the Bible. And I obviously knew everything because I was taught, like I was raised in it and I knew what the teachings were.
sure.
So I was like, she was asking like what, I don't know, she was asking me questions and I was answering them correctly. And then at the very end, she was like, can you come in here? My mom. And then she was like, your daughter knows the truth. Like, she knows everything. Like, it's all in her brain. She just doesn't believe. Like, and you can't make her have that faith. Like, she was the one person who, like, understood that, like, I just did not believe what they were teaching me. And she was like, I'm sorry, but this is hopeless. Bringing me out here was kind of pointless because she already knows everything. She just doesn't have it in her heart. And, like, I can't help with that. And she left, and my mom was like so distraught.
Wow, I can't believe she did that.
I know.
Of course, then again, she also, in saying that, is absolving herself of responsibility, because your mom, again, put the responsibility on somebody else
Yes.
to set the example for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's, yeah, you could answer the questions, but I mean, I could read Lord of the Rings and answer questions about the book, but it doesn't mean that I put faith that it's real,
Exactly.
Yeah, it's having head knowledge, that they put so much emphasis on the heart, but that's a really slippery slope.
Yeah.
Especially for people, which is funny, they use the scripture that the heart is treacherous and who can know it, and the heart will lead you down bad paths. But it's the heart that they need you to get you to believe what they believe. So yeah, interesting. So so where do you go after this sister has basically been like, yeah, I wash my hands of this? Your daughter's a lost cause as far as this goes.
So yeah, my mom basically, she like, I feel like to this day, she still believes that I know deep down that that is the truth and I'm choosing to ignore it and I'm choosing to be in the world. But she told me after that day, she was like, I was probably 17 and she was like, I'm going to continue to do everything I can to reach your heart. So you're still going to be going to all the meetings as long as you live under my roof. Or no, as long as you're under 18. She was like, until you're 18, you're going to do what I say and you're going to go to the meetings and you're going to like just basically follow my rules. And after that, I've done all I can, and if you want to go be in Satan's world, then you can do it, but you won't be doing it while you live here, like that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I still went to the meetings, and I just basically, I would try to sit on my phone the whole time, or like, I wouldn't sing the songs, and like, I just basically showed like I didn't want to be there at all, and like everyone knew. So like, they wouldn't really talk to me. Like, some people would try to talk to me and like give a good influence on me or something, or like say, I'm happy you're here, I'm happy to see you. But I never hung out with any of them. I just kind of kept to myself, and like I still had my friends at school and I would still sneak out and everything. And then yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's just so your mom, in that last ditch effort, she's just saying, I'm going to make you go to meetings, blah, blah, blah. Does she do anything to change, to set a better example, or to study with you at home, or just try to give you a different experience in any way?
I remember sometimes she would study, but it was so random. Like, even my sisters would be like, why are you studying with us? You never study. like, why do we have to sit here and do this? Like, we can just go to somebody else's house and do it like we normally do. Because my mom didn't know how to lead a family study or anything because she never did it. So it would just always end in like fighting, and like I wouldn't be paying attention. Like I didn't want to be there. And like, so she would try, but she realized like it wasn't working. So she just gave up on that. But she still like my whole life, she has never consistently gone to meetings and gone out in service. It's always been like here and there she'll go, or like if she's trying to prove a point, she'll go to like set a good example or something, but she's never been like consistently going.
Yeah, yeah. And in the end, let's admit that even if she was going, even if she was doing all these things, that doesn't mean that you're going to believe.
Exactly.
You can't control other people's minds just because you want to. And what is sad is that it's like it really gets into narcissism and people who, so like she still believes that you believe. And that's because she believes. So therefore you, like, it's just so obvious the truth to her that you must believe it. Like, you must think like her. How could you not think and feel exactly like her, which is like a hallmark of narcissism, to fail to be able to understand that other people are their own people with their own thoughts and feelings that might not line up with yours. It's just, it's such a shame, because normal human beings, and especially kids with their parents, we all need to be seen and felt and heard, or what's called mirrored, to have somebody reflect back to us who we are. And to not be able to have that from the most basic of human relationships with your mom or your dad, that's it's a difficult thing. It impacts people. Has that hurt your relationships with people, or made it more difficult maybe for you? I mean, all of us have trouble making friends, or a lot of us do, after leaving the Witnesses, because it does a job on all of us. But has this impacted your life more, as you've gone on?
Like at first, like when I don't know, I feel like I definitely had trouble making like good friends, and like I don't know, I didn't really, since I was basically isolated my whole life, I didn't really know how to like, so I don't know how to explain it. Like I didn't know how to make friends, like once I got out of my parents' house and everything, like I didn't really know what to do with my life, and like how to communicate with people and like form relationships, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's normal for a lot of us, because relationships are based on some amount of vulnerability or intimacy, and when you can't have that with your own parents, and you don't have it your whole life, you've never seen it. So how do I be this thing that I've never seen modeled for me in any way? I think,
and I think I definitely, at one point, I was pretty like promiscuous, I think the word is.
Sure.
So I don't know, I definitely had a rough period there.
Yeah, and people that's normal too, for people, especially, I mean, it can be normal anyway, but for a person that has been abused, sometimes, there's some acting out in that way, or just looking for love or care or attention or anything. When you grow up in an emotional desert, you get water wherever you can get it, and it's just a shame so many of us have had to. What about, so you didn't believe it. Once you got toward 18, being a legal adult, you had this decision to make according to your mom, right?
Mhm.
So how did things go for you around then? And did you, did you go to college? Did you just, go into the working world? What was kind of your path, around that time?
So I started working full time like right before I turned 18, and I finished my high school senior year online, and she let me do that because she was like, "You're getting into so much trouble at school and like or like with your school friends, so go ahead." Like I was offered a good job, so she was like, "Fine, go ahead as long as you finish senior year online." So I started working full time, and I was trying to save up all my money and everything to buy a car. And because I actually didn't even get my license until I turned 19 because my parents didn't want me to have a car because I would be able to go out and do more bad things. Well, my mom didn't
Yeah,
want
yeah,
me to.
yeah.
But so I bought and like I didn't know anything about how to do anything. So I didn't know what to look for when buying a car. So I bought it off this app called OfferUp,
Hmm.
and it was like a used punch buggy and it was like $1,800 and it had 170,000 miles on it. And when I bought it, the check engine light was on, and I didn't know what that meant. So like when I bought it, it only lasted like 6 months because it was a piece of crap and it died. But I didn't have anyone to like my mom wasn't willing to help me with anything because I made my decision not to be a Jehovah's Witness. So she was like, "You can figure everything out on your own." And like,
Goodness, just absolving themselves of responsibility for you all over the place. My
yep.
goodness.
So yeah, I bought my car. I had a good job. I was feeling good about myself, and like I think I was doing pretty well considering because like I could have gone down like a really dark path and like
Yeah.
done hard drugs and like not had a job, but I was really determined to like be better than my parents cuz like they were living in a trailer and they had one car that barely worked, and my mom never worked, like had a job. So I was trying to like do something for myself. And I never had college in my mind because that's not something that Jehovah's Witnesses like
Right.
try to encourage. So I was like, I don't need college. I'm just going to work really hard. And I was making good money, and I was working at like a shipping department, and I was also like the office assistant of the company. And like I was still living at home because I didn't have enough money to move out yet. But my younger sisters, they were going to every meeting, like they always were like really into it, but at the same time they never like treated me different. Like they like showed love towards me, and like we all kind of like we were all each other had basically like
Yeah.
growing up, so we were really close. And then when I turned 19, I met my boyfriend. He's transgender.
Hmm.
So when I started dating him, my mom flipped out. Like that's when she was like, "You need to move out of my house," and she called me a lesbian or like a homosexual, and she said I was sinning and she didn't want anything like that in her house. So I started like staying at my boyfriend's house, and he lived in Richmond, which is how I got to Richmond. But then that's when I started getting like everyone started distancing themselves from me. And they said like I was really this was me like severely acting out, and like I was only doing this to like hurt my mom or something.
Yes, because it's all about her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in my head, I was like, I'm literally doing nothing wrong. I have a great job. I ended up getting a new car. I have money in my savings. I have a really good boyfriend who's like caring, like he's really caring and thoughtful, and like he's treating me right for the first time. And like I'm doing really well for myself. I'm not like pregnant. I don't do drugs. But they didn't see any of that. All they saw was like she's not a Jehovah's Witness. She's
Yep.
a bad influence. She's now dating a transgender person, and she's just going crazy. I don't want anything to do with this.
That's so sad because they can only accept you if you are exactly like them.
Yes.
She's happy, she's living the life she wants to live, but ultimately she doesn't have the truth. So what does anything about her or her life matter?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
that really showed me
Yeah.
how I don't know. I was so glad that I made the decision not to be a part of that religion after that, because I was like, wow. My mom would call him, she wouldn't even call him, she would say it. She would call him it, or she would call him a he, she, not even treat him like a real person. And she anytime my sisters didn't treat me like that. They love my boyfriend, they love me, and they would still want to see me and him. And anytime my mom would find out that they were talking to him, or he was outside visiting or something, she would storm out and be like, get in the house right now. You don't need to talk to him. And she didn't want anyone, her or my sisters, to have anything to do with him.
I'm just kind of soaking that all in.
Yeah, sorry, it's a lot.
It's just, it's the it and he, she thing.
Yeah.
It's so ignorant and just ugly. I can hold space and understand where she's coming from on the level that she's ignorant and very hurt. She's a person that does not have very good skills, and if you can't be exactly what she wants you to be, she'll resort to anything to try to demean what you have, or the person you love, or whatever, to make it conform to what her very narrow, small, ignorant worldview. It's hard to listen to. It's just he doesn't deserve that, your boyfriend. Good for him for being who he is, and good for you for accepting him for who he is. And I mean, isn't that ultimately kind of a microcosm of this story? Being accepted for who you are.
Yes.
The desire that everyone has in life to be accepted for the person that they are, by the people who are supposed to love and care for them. And it's just unfortunate that Jehovah's Witnesses, for the most part, can't accept anyone that doesn't conform to the narrow worldview that they have.
Yes.
So I guess that brings you pretty much up to the current day. How are your relationships? So another part of your story is that you were never baptized.
Yeah.
And so, there's no, there's no mandate necessarily, black and white mandate where they have to shun you. How are you treated by everyone that you knew in the past? Whether that's your mom or whatever. It sounds like your sisters still talk to you, but what about other people?
So my grandma, my mom's mom, I've spoken to her here and there, but there was the first year and a half of my boyfriend and our relationship, she did not speak to me and didn't want me around my cousins or anything. And my mom would always send me, she definitely distanced herself from me, but she would also send me paragraphs and paragraphs about how I know the truth, and I'm really disappointing Jehovah. And she would always send me scriptures and stuff. My dad has always been he was kind of not really a huge parent role model growing up, but ever since I moved out, and like I'm doing my own thing. He's so supportive of me, and like he loves my boyfriend. He has no problem with anything that I'm doing. Like he's proud of me. My pop-up and my nona, they were so supportive. They love my boyfriend and everything, and they were always there for me. But the people in the Kingdom Hall and everything, I really haven't spoken to any of them since I moved out, or like since I stopped going to meetings. And my sisters, like, they actually moved out when they turned 18 this past September, and they moved into this it's like a guest house on one of the brother and sister's property from their Kingdom Hall. And I knew that sister, like she was the girl that I would hang out with, and her family would like kind of treat me different. She is now married to a brother, and like she knows me, and she told my sisters, your sister is not allowed on our property. We don't want her to come to your house. Like I wasn't allowed to come see their new place because because I'm bad association. And so like they all still like treat me like they basically shun me. And
Even so, your sisters basically shun you too. I mean, I know you can't go to their place, but do they?
well, they like, okay, so my sister does it more so than, but like text me every day, and like she'll like I feel like she doesn't have a problem with me, but she doesn't really text me anymore, and she unfollowed me on social media because she didn't want to see me posting about holidays and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But she'll text me every now and then and be like, I'll always love you, but like I need to keep my distance. But she does it in like kind of a loving way, and it's really hard for me because I'm like I was really close, and like they're my baby sisters, so I can't like cut them off. I feel like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I'm definitely still treated different, but
I wonder, does this fair or unfair? I wonder if you weren't dating a trans man, if
yeah.
they would be quite as up in arms as they are.
Yeah.
Because Jehovah's Witnesses, for as much as they say, they try to say that they're not homophobic. And when I say homophobic, I just mean like, I guess I should, homophobic, transphobic, whatever, like phobic of all the things other than heterosexuality.
Yeah.
I would just wonder if things would have been a little bit different. Because, when you're out there saying things like the it and the he, she and all that, like, that's transphobic. That's not, that's not, we love all people. We just, don't like the quote sin or whatever. No, that cuts to who the person is. And let's face it, Jehovah's Witnesses, my dad was homophobic as could be. We had the worst conversations about that stuff. He was just abusive and awful about it. And I knew a whole lot of people who were that way.
Yeah. And my mom would always be like, I love Chris as a person, but I don't love what he chose to do to his body, or like how he chooses to live his life, and I don't want any part of it.
You're not a part of it. It's not your fucking life. Like, he gets to live his life. Like, I don't want to be a part of it, which really means if I can't control it and it doesn't conform to what I want, then it doesn't exist. Like, it's just, that's such an arrogant statement. Why do you care? We recently went to a Pride Fest locally. And last year, my wife had actually accidentally gone because she was meeting a friend down in this area for lunch, and then they like walked out and, oh, here's a Pride Festival. And she was like, oh, cool. And so they walked around a little bit, and there were these religious people that were there, screaming at the gays or whatever,
oh my God.
Ignorant thing they did, thumping their Bibles. And it just made me think, so we went this year to the same thing, and I was expecting to maybe see those people there, and I didn't. I think they had taken some steps to keep those people at bay, but the religious people who were screaming. But nobody went and held a pride festival in your church's parking lot. They held it on a public city street.
Yeah.
And you came and went to their domain and yelled at them. And it's just like it's just as dumb as somebody saying, like, because this person has done this to their own body, or has chosen to live differently, or has whatever they do in their bedroom, or has sex with somebody I wouldn't have sex with.
Yeah.
I'm going to yell at them. Like, nobody comes into your bedroom and yells at you. Maybe they don't like everything you do. Like, it's just the dumbest thing. One of the dumbest things that human beings do. To seek to control people and judge people like that. It just really makes no sense. So you're on your own now, and you have your boyfriend. You live in Richmond. What do you enjoy about your new life since you've been out and away? Kind of, I don't know exactly how distanced you are from all this, but what do you enjoy about the life that you do have now?
I feel like I finally have like a stable life, and my boyfriend and I have been dating for over 3 years, and he's always been so supportive of me, and like, his family, he is so lucky. His entire family is so supportive of him and who he is, and they always took me right in. Like, when I first moved in with him in his apartment, we lived there for like 6 months. Like, we had only been dating 6 months, and he had to move back in with his parents to save money, and he was like trying to get into VCU, which is a college in Richmond. And his parents took me and him in. Like, they let me live there too, and they basically became my new family. And like, his mother is more of a mother than my mother has ever been. And his father and everything, and like, they helped us get into our new apartment when he got accepted in the college, so we moved back up to Richmond last year. But I'm the happiest that I've been, and like, I'm not as depressed as I was. Like, I don't know, I have a really good group of friends now, and I have a really good job at a law firm, and I just feel like I'm doing really well for myself, and I'm in a really happy relationship, and I'm completely the opposite of what my parents are. And like, I don't know, I just feel really happy. And even though like it does hurt that my family has distanced themselves from me, but I feel like it's also for the best, because like, it was really toxic. And I don't know, like, I still love my family. Like, I love my mom, and like, I'll talk to her every now and then. Like, she's not as abusive as she was at first. Like, she's kind of realized, like, oh, they've been dating for 3 years, and like, she's probably gonna get married to him, and like, I can't do anything about it. So she's like polite to me, but like, we don't have like a good relationship. Like, we'll probably never have one. But yeah, it's still kind of hard, but like, I feel like my life is pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it. It's hard to have good relationships with people who are somewhat toxic. I mean, you just can't do that. But I'm really struck by so I have another podcast called Louisville One, and I help people locally to tell stories. And the last episode I released was with a transgender man. And his name's Braxton, and just a really cool guy. I met him actually at the Pride Fest, and he wanted to talk more, and so we did. We got together and had this conversation, and there's just something about listening to people's stories where they made such a big transition, physically. Well, and it's not just physically; it's in a lot of ways, to be who they really are, as a transgender person.
Yeah.
And for them to be accepted by their families is just amazing, because
Yes.
one of the things he brought up was that basically everyone goes through a transition, because
Yeah.
as he was transitioning, he had the emotional intelligence to understand that like his mom was transitioning. His mom lost a daughter and gained a son. And so he was just kind of talking about that, and just what a contrast to you or me or so many of us who've been on this podcast or have never been on this podcast, who just want to be themselves and want to find their own path and their own way. And our families can't accept our transition of sorts. They can't accept us being someone other than who and what they want us to be.
Yeah.
It's just your boyfriend sounds like he has a beautiful family.
Yes.
And I think we all wish we had that.
Oh yeah.
It's just not where we came from, but it would be nice to have that.
Yeah. And one thing my mom said that has always bothered me, she was like, she even would say it when I was younger, because I've always been really open to everyone. I never judged gay people, lesbians. I've always loved everyone.
Right.
And she would say yes, we're all imperfect, so there are some people who are born gay or lesbian, but Jehovah wants those people to ignore that and ignore the urges, because they're wrong, the urge to love a same-sex person, and you're supposed to just pretend or do your best to serve Jehovah living in this wicked world, and not act on those urges, and otherwise it's a sin, and that won't be tolerated in the congregation or whatever. And I was like, that is just crazy. You're supposed to live in this world and pretend and not be who you really are.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's what they believe, They believe,
Yeah.
well, I mean, let's face it, they've all put on, quote, the new personality.
Yes.
Which is the cult personality.
Yes.
And so they are not themselves. They are not who they would be outside of putting on this thing they've put on and taking on this role. So it disturbs them to see other people being themselves, because they can't be their selves.
Yeah.
And it's just, in the end, nobody wins in this. Who are you helping? What's the payoff for any of this, other than feeling that you're better than other people and that it will get you some magic reward? And I'm sorry, but if your God cares that much, why does God care so much about your genitals and what you do with them? Why? Why in the world is this the thing, the hill that people die on? Is this? It's silly. When you step back and think of the whole thing from the outside, it's silly, and very immature. But it's easier to put people in boxes so that you can label people, so that you can feel better than this person or that person. and especially for people who have had trauma in their lives and they're struggling, and not getting real help, but rather escaping into a cult. So let's talk about you and your life going forward. Do you have any dreams or anything that you want to make of your life? It sounds like you want some better things in your life.
Yeah.
And already have some.
Yeah. I do you mean like with like dreams with
Like,
just like
do you want to pursue a certain career, have a family, go
Yeah.
travel the world?
So
What do you want?
we want to get married soon, like within the next year or two.
Cool.
And I actually really like the company that I'm working for. There's room to move up. Like I'm actually gonna so I'm an administrative assistant right now for a taxing law firm, and I'm currently training with the litigation specialists, and I'm gonna move up in March. So I'll be like getting a promotion basically.
Cool.
And so I really like that company, and I kind of want to grow there, like with that company, and then like in the future, like I could probably like they have things you can do, like you can get more like certifications, and like they'll send you to school, and like they'll pay for it if you want to like further your education. So I feel like if I stay with this company and do something like that, if we decide to move from Richmond, I can go further in that kind of career, like somewhere else. And then we also want to like we've thought about having like a kid of our own, and like I really want to, but I kind of want to like foster children. So we kind of have that plan, and we definitely want to have like a lot of animals. And my boyfriend Chris, he's currently in college. Next semester or next year is his last year, I think. But he's studying criminal justice with a minor in homeland security. So he wants to do something like I think he wants to be a cop or something. He hasn't really figured it out yet. But we both have plans like to go further in our careers and like eventually get a house and like have a family and everything.
That's beautiful. And all along being able to be yourself.
Yep.
And find people who accept you and love you for who you are.
Yes.
And not be tied to dysfunction, to be able to live a happy, healthy life. Isn't that what everybody wants?
Yes.
Well, that's beautiful. I really appreciate you reaching out and, telling your story. I'm not sure if I've interviewed, it's hard to remember off the top of my head right now. I'm not sure I've interviewed anybody else who didn't get baptized. So that's an interesting part of your story that you were never baptized and yet you're still shunned. It might be soft shunning. It might not be, like treating you like you're completely dead among everyone, but it just goes to show the different levels of shunning. Not everyone is hardcore shunned as if they're dead, but, even if you don't take that step to become 100% one of them, they struggle to accept you being you. That's what we all look for, is acceptance where we can get it. And I'm sure you'll help somebody else out there who is listening, who maybe has a little bit more non-traditional path as far as not getting baptized, to see that they're not alone too. There's a community. This community of shunned people encompasses a lot of different experiences. I want to thank everybody, all these 10 episodes that I'm releasing pretty much at once. I want to, thank everybody who was brave enough to tell their stories. It takes courage to speak out. And I know it's very cathartic for people to listen back to later. So I wish the best for everybody. If you want to support the podcast and the work that goes into it, or the new website, xjwhelp.com, you can support them both at patreon.com/shunned. Patreon is Patreon. So that's patreon.com/shunned.
This work matters. It matters to the people that are listening. That would be you. It matters to the people who are watching videos that are helping to find or finding the help that they need. It matters to the people that get to participate and hear their stories being told in their own voice, or that sometimes reconnect with other people from their past through their episodes, or even, you reach out to these people and leave a comment of encouragement to them. And that matters. It matters to people that are listening that are from other cults, and they get to see that they aren't alone because there's so many similarities. So if this matters to you, please support it so we can help more people. You can also support by leaving a 5-star review for both Shunned and This JW Life, my initial podcast. These reviews help others to find these stories so that we can help them heal. And if you hear an episode that you like, share it on social media. Tell others on the XJW Reddit or some group about it. Wherever you are, if there's something that impacts you, one of the highest compliments you can ever pay is to pay it forward and to tell other people about the episode or the podcast in general, or the coaching or the Shunned Recovery Project, or whatever it is that's helping you. Please help share it to other people, because there are a lot of people that don't know these things exist. If you like, that goes for the new site as well. If you like the new site, xjwhelp.com, please share it to others. Keeping it to yourself isn't going to help anybody. So let's make 2020 the start of something big as a community. Support good work. Participate if you can. Help others, and let's take our power back. If you want individual help, then reach out to me through xjwhelp.com or shunnedpodcast.com. Leave a message of support for the people telling their stories. Get resources mentioned on the website along with links to support the show, or contact me if there's something that you need to discuss. Join the Shunned Podcast Facebook group, which is a support group. So get involved. If we want something different, then we're going to have to do something different. Let's be the start. The song for the show today, as always, is No Hell Yet by Fair Voyeur. And as I end all episodes, love others, do no harm, and go be happy.
We'll curse God